Ivan, thank you ever so much for coming along today. So today we're very privileged to have Dr. Ivan Misner on our video series, which is the Piscari Insights series. So we've had you on before, and I'm very privileged and honoured that you've come back. So thank you ever so much. For those people that didn't see the last one, do you want to just describe kind of what you do and your amazing kind of history of what you created with BNI?
Well, I'm the founder of an organization called BNI. It's a referral marketing service. We allow one person per professional category to join a chapter. We now have over 10,000, which blows my mind.
Wow.
Over 10,100 chapters in more than 70 countries around the world. And it's, during the pandemic, I really believe that there are many businesses that survived the pandemic because of their involvement in BNI. Last year,
Amazing.
During the craziest year I've ever experienced, we passed 13 million referrals to our members. Our members passed 13 million, and they generated over 16 billion with a B, 16 billion US dollars worth of business for each other during the craziest year I've ever experienced. So
Good grief.
that's what I do. I'm sort of the Colonel Sanders of BNI now. I get to just do interviews. It's fun.
And you're the, as many people have kind of quoted, the kind of the father, the grandfather, whichever way you'd like to say it.
No, nobody's called me the grandfather yet. I've been called the father. I've been called the godfather.
The godfather.
Nobody's called
the
me, and I'm okay with that.
Better. I'm definitely not calling you the grandfather.
Thank you.
For
All
sure.
right, I appreciate that.
So today we're going to discuss Who's in Your Room, an amazing book, which for anyone that's watching this, I absolutely highly recommended. Won't take you long. I mean, I read it in kind of probably about 3 or 4 hours over a couple of weekends. And we've kind of crafted some questions that I'd like to go through. So let's kick off with that kind of the first question. So can you describe briefly what the book's about and how you decided on the concept of imagine you live in one room, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah. So the concept of who's in your room is imagine that you live your life, your entire life in one room, and that one room has only one door. And that one door is an enter-only door, so that when people come into your room or into your life, they are there forever. You can never get them out. Now, luckily, and everybody chuckles when they hear that. Luckily,
it made me laugh when I looked at it.
Yeah. Now, luckily, it's a metaphor, but if it were true, Mike, would you treat experiences differently? Would you be more selective about the people that you let into your room?
Absolutely, I would. Absolutely, it made me really think about all these people in my room that I wish had never entered.
Yeah, absolutely, all of us. And so now here's the thing: I believe it's more than a metaphor. I believe it's true, and here's why. What I want you to do right now, Mike, is I want you to think of someone that you got out of your life, because people tell me, I can get them out of my life. Okay, I want you to think of somebody that you got out of your life and why you got them out of your life. Maybe they were toxic or difficult. No, I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you who it is.
No. But I've got them in my mind. I can see their face now.
All right. Now, if you're watching or listening to this, I want you, the audience, to join us. I want you to think of someone you got out of your life, and I want you to think about why you got them out of your life. Now, Mike, I want you to think of an experience, and if you're watching or listening, I want you to think of an experience that you had with this person, which was one of the steps to wanting them out of your life. So, you got something, Mike? Are you thinking?
I've got that. I even know where I was sat.
All right, perfect. So here's the deal. If they're still in your head, they're still in your room. They will be there for the rest of your life. Because the room begins on your right temple and ends on your left temple. It is your mind. These are the people that you've let into your life. We interviewed, as you know, Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a psychiatrist and neuroscientist. And he said something that was very profound. He said, when you have a relationship, a personal relationship or professional relationship with somebody, their fingerprints are all over your brain forever.
Yes.
For as long as you live. And so
Yep.
you will make decisions, good or bad, based on the good or bad experiences that you had with other people. And so this is why we say it is so important to be selective about who you let into your mind, who you let into your room, because it'll affect you in one way or another forever. And that's the concept.
And what was the inspiration? What was the trigger? What made you suddenly think about this idea?
Well, okay, so it wasn't my idea. It was my co-author, Stuart Emery. I heard him do a presentation. I'm a member of the Transformational Leadership Council that was started by Jack Canfield. And we get together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and so I see Jack twice a year. He's become a very good friend. And Stuart Emery has become a very, very good friend. And he talked about this concept. And I said, Stuart, you got to write a book on this. And he said, yeah, we're going to do it. And a year went by, well, 6 months went by, and I saw him again. I said, how's the book coming? He said,
where's the book?
Yeah. I need to do that. And 6 months went by, and I said, how's the book? Because I want to promote this. Because, I mean, when you think about it, I run a network.
Yeah.
And the people you put in that room, physically put in that room, impact you immediately. And so
Absolutely.
to me, even though it wasn't about networking, it was about relationships, which is about networking. And so after a year and a half, he finally said to me, I haven't started it really. Do you want to write it with me? And I'm like, oh yeah, I am in.
Absolutely.
And so we're actually doing a second edition right now. We're working on the second edition.
Oh, I must get that. Let me know when it's out, definitely, and I'll let my audience know.
It'll probably be a year and a half, 2 years, but because it takes a year to do it. It takes 6 months or more to get it published. So
yeah. So I had a thought.
It was his idea.
As we were as I was reading through the book, have you met people that have said, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life expected of me? Because that was a quote from the book, wasn't it?
It was, and that was something that Stuart very specifically heard, and I've heard variations of it.
Yeah.
Things like I've not really lived the life that I wanted. I didn't, I haven't been always authentic. Phrases like that. I wish I would have done that. I wish I hadn't let this person into my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all hear that. And the funny thing about it is, Mom told us about this when we were kids.
They did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want you hanging out with that little Johnny. He's a bad influence, right?
He's a bad influence.
That's right.
Exactly. He's not good for you.
Mom got this right many years ago. We just kind of reframed it in a sort of different way, but basically Mom was telling us this.
She was. So that brings me nicely on to, so we now understand what the concept of the room is. You've helped us visualize people that are in our room that we'd rather not have in our room. Talk about the bouncer. I thought the bouncer was a great kind of concept.
Yeah, so we said, look, you can call this person whatever you want. You can call it the bouncer, the guardian,
the
doorman. We tended to use the term doorman throughout the book. Call it whatever you want. It is your conscious and subconscious mind.
Yeah.
It is the thing that says, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe this person's not a good fit for building a professional relationship with or a personal relationship with. I need to keep them on the porch.
Yes.
I can't let them get in the room. You may have to deal with people. Dealing with people doesn't mean they're in your room.
No.
They can stay on the porch, and you can step outside on the patio, have a conversation, work with them. But the idea of the doorman is that you have to train yourself.
Yes.
And you literally, some of us have conversations with ourselves. When we start taking them too seriously, that could be a problem. But, where we're just saying, I need to do better. I need to think about this. And that's your doorman. And so you need to have conversations with your doorman as to whether you allow somebody in or not. And I don't know if you're going to touch upon why, but how you train them. But you train
how you train them is the key. Yeah.
On your values.
Yes.
That is so important. And so if you don't know your values,
yep,
you have nothing to train the doorman on.
Correct.
So you have to know what are your values in life. And when I say to somebody, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, Mike, but when I say to someone, what are your top 7 values?
Yeah.
it's like watching a deer in the headlights. 7? Yeah, 6, 7. Give them to me. Honesty. Okay, great. What else?
Everyone has honesty.
Know.
Exactly.
They don't know. Well, how can you know what kind of people you want in your life if you don't know your own values?
And for people that like the analogy, it's like you're employing the doorman. You're having a party. You're employing the doorman. You've got to brief the doorman about... You've obviously got a guest list, but if people turn up and they're not on the guest list, but you might want to let them in, how would you tell the doorman what to look for? What are they looking for? I love
that. Mike, that's likely to end up in the second edition, just so you know.
Thank you, Ivan. That would be amazing. You've got to brief the doorman.
Yes, I'm writing that down. That's good.
Good.
You have to brief the doorman on the guest list and who you allow in, who you don't. I think that's brilliant. Thank you. I'll tell my co-author, make sure to quote Mike.
That would be great. That would be amazing to be quoted in the book. Thank you. So,
yeah, but that's exactly right. If you don't know, and if you don't have that conversation with yourself, then you're just going to let anybody. It's going to be a revolving door, and whoever comes in, a revolving door, and no one leaves. They just keep coming in.
That's right. Correct. They keep coming in. Yeah. Engines, anchors, and mentors. This was brilliant. So, what do you mean by this?
Can I just touch on one other quick thing on values?
Of course you can. Anything you like.
Here's an easy place to start with values. And by the way, in the book we have phrases that you can pick that help you determine your values. Yeah. There's a lot of instruments online you can do this. But here's where you can start with values that are easy. And I am going to ask you this because it's an easy answer, I think.
Okay, I'm ready.
Deal breakers. What is one deal breaker for you that you're like, I don't want to build a relationship, professional or personal, with this person because they what? What's a deal breaker?
Don't have integrity.
Okay, that's a great deal breaker. So what I recommend to people, and what I want to do in the second edition, is put deal breakers up front because that's an easy place to start. For me, one of my deal breakers was drama. People that are dripping in drama on a daily basis. It never goes away. We all have drama. I have drama.
Absolutely.
You have drama. But you know what I mean. Constant drama. And so I just didn't like being around people like that. And so now I train my doorman. Watch for drama. Because if it's consistent, then this is not somebody I want in my life. So
if they turn up to your door, they're waving their arms, they're shouting, they're all over the place. You're like, that's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. And they stay on the patio for a while until I see whether that's consistent. I mean, look, we have things happen to us in life.
Of course.
They're dramatic. Yeah. And, you give them a little time. And if months go by and they're still doing the drama thing, they stay on the patio. They stay on the...
And, from a personal point of view, before I was very, very fortunate to have met Vicky, my wife, because she's many, many things in my life, which are amazing. But before that, when I was kind of dating as a young man, I'd meet all sorts of people. There'd be quite a lot that were drama people. Mm-hmm. And then you start going, do I attract them? Or is it just happenstance? We attract people.
We do.
Of a certain type.
We do, and we allow them in. When Stuart first gave that presentation, it hit me, oh my gosh. I hate drama. I have people that are in my life. I let them in. I knew they had drama.
Yeah.
And I let them in. It's all my fault.
It's my fault.
That they're in my life. I need to change that. And that's when I started training my doorman. By the way, you mentioned your wife. My late wife and I had this deal breaker together.
Right.
We went out with other couples.
Yeah.
If we were going to build a relationship with another couple, if we were going to have friends that are another couple, that couple had to love and respect each other.
Right.
Not one, not the other. They're not the same.
Yeah. No.
But they had to treat each other with love and respect. Now, look, nobody's perfect. I've not always been,
No.
I hadn't been always as loving with Elizabeth as I could have been. But, consistency, generally, did they treat each other with love? Did they treat each other with respect? And if so, that was a couple that we would like to build a friendship with. And if they didn't, we then realized they needed to go into the corner. They needed to go into a box on a shelf, and we weren't going to continue the relationship with them. All right, so you asked about anchors and engines.
I did. Engines, anchors, and mentors. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to ask yourself, one of the things that you want your doorman to do is to assess the room.
Yeah.
To take a look at the room. And are the people in your room, are they engines or are they anchors? Are they people who help move you forward, drive you forward? They're supporters. They're behind you, helping you out, right?
Yep.
You can go to them, get the advice. They give you great advice. They're supporters. They're cheerleaders for you. Those are engines.
Yeah.
The anchors are the ones just bringing you down.
Yeah.
They're negative. They're not supportive. And when you get around them, you feel worse than without them there. Engines make you feel like your best self.
Yes.
Anchors make you feel less than yourself.
Yeah.
And the worst are the anchors with an engine attached. They drive you down fast, really fast. And so you have to assess your room. And if you've got anchors in your room, those are the people that get put in a corner or on a shelf. Yeah.
Mentors, how are they different?
Mentors are so incredibly important. And the beauty, having a real life, honest to goodness mentor is fantastic, but they don't all have to be someone that you personally know. When I was a young man, many of my mentors were books I read.
Yes.
I read a book, and that person, in my mind, they mentored me. They gave me advice that made me a better person, made me a better business person. Mike, today, oh my goodness, we've got shows like this. We have YouTube videos, we have podcasts, and so
Blogs
much content.
Exactly.
Blogs, so much content that you need to find people that are your mentors, and maybe it's a temporary thing. For example, right now, one of my mentors, as I mentioned, I lost my wife about a year ago, and
Very sad.
One of my mentors is a widow group called Widow We Do Now.
Oh, wow.
Widow We Do Now. And I got to tell you, at my age, I didn't think I was going to be learning a whole lot of new stuff. Yeah. But that widow group has really mentored me on how to deal with grief, how to deal with other people with grief. And so mentors are so incredibly important, both real life mentors and virtual mentors. Find people that resonate with you and immerse yourself in their content. Shows like this are perfect for that.
Thank you, Ivan. And thank you for being also very kind of personal and revealing. So my condolences, that must be an awful experience.
I recommend anyone listening to this that's a widow or widower, I recommend the podcast widowwedonow.com, widowwedonow.com. And it's, give it a couple of episodes, especially if you're a guy. Because these two women, they chatter, they talk. And the first time I listened to it, I was like, why am I listening to this? And the person said, listen to a second one. So it hooked me on the second one, and I've listened to all of them now.
I think interesting also, virtual mentors. I've not heard people talk about virtual mentors, but it's very true. We read books, and that helps guide us. And it's very important. Yeah,
it is. And I remember when I started BNI, one of the books that I first read was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, the entrepreneur by Michael Gerber. And Michael, I read this book and I loved it. And, people would ask me as the business grew and became international, what were you reading when you started BNI? And I said, well, probably the most seminal book for me was The E-Myth. And, it talks about working on your business, not in your business. And I talked about several other things. It was on a live radio show in California. Guess who called me the next day? Michael Gerber.
No.
He called me. And he said, I just happened to be listening to the radio yesterday.
Wow.
And I wanted to find you, call you, and thank you for all the nice things that you said about my book, because it's just heartwarming to see how the things I've been sharing work for someone. And I was like, Michael, he was an icon. I mean, he is
amazing.
An icon. But at that moment, I was like networking up. And
amazing.
And Michael said, hey, can we get together? And Michael came to my lake house in Big Bear 2 weeks later. And he and I have been really good friends now for 15 years or more. If you go to ivanmisner.com and do a search, you'll find videos that I've done with him. Yeah.
Amazing.
So virtual mentors, here's the beauty. Virtual mentors, sometimes, if you really follow their advice, can become real life mentors. because you've engaged in the things they've told you to do.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant advice. I'm very conscious of your time, Ivan. So just two more things.
My
very,
time
very
is
quick.
yours, Mike, whatever you'd like.
That's very kind, Ivan. It really is. And I'm really loving this. I do many of these. This is really engaging because it's a dialogue. You are definitely an engine in life, that's for sure. That's for sure. So a couple of things. Practical tips. How do you deal with people who are in your room? They never leave. How do you deal with them?
Yeah, well, the first thing is you have to learn how to say no without sounding like a jerk or worse. And so, what my favorite technique with that is if I said yes to you, I'm afraid I'd let you down. So when people are, trying to get you to do things you really don't want to do, they're not congruent with your values, or it's just not your focus, you got to learn how to say no. The truth is, no's a one-word sentence. It's okay to say no.
Yes.
I usually say no, thank you. But you can also talk about it not being congruent with your values. Here's an example. I had someone who had this great charitable organization to do paths through the public land, and they had the rights to be able to do these paths. And it was wonderful, and the work they were doing was great. And they asked me to make a contribution, and I told them I really loved what they were doing, but that my focus was on children and education.
Yeah.
And that what they're doing is great, but it's not my focus. And so I turned them down, even though it was a worthwhile project, because I want to do things for children and education. And so it just wasn't congruent with my values. It didn't mean it was wrong. It just wasn't mine. And so you got to learn to be able to say no. That's certainly one thing. Here's two other quick ones.
Yep.
People in your life that you want them out of your life. You know they're going to be in your head, but you want them out of your life. Homeopathic doses. The shortest, smallest amount of interaction with them that you can possibly have is, I think, a very effective technique. And also benign neglect. Benign neglect works even when you don't want it to. For example, I have friends in high school and college that I just lost touch with over the years. I like them. Yeah. It'd be okay if they were still in my room, or in my life, but they're not. Yeah. And so imagine doing that with a plan. That you say, all right, this person, they need to be out of my life. And so I'm going to have a plan of benign neglect and homeopathic doses until you get them really completely out of your life. They're still in your head, but they're out of your life.
So by homeopathic doses, you mean very small amounts of those people?
The smallest amount necessary to be able to interact with them without burning bridges. I don't like burning bridges. So I've had this conversation with my son, and my son is a young man, and he's like, Dad, just tell him you don't want to talk to him anymore. I'm like, okay, well, that might work for you. It doesn't work for me. And so I don't like burning bridges. Yeah. And I mean, here's an example, and I've seen people, actually, this was something suggested to me. Woman knew that if she went into this, she lived in a different city, she knew that if she went into that city and it was posted on Facebook that this person who she really didn't want around her much anymore would get upset. Why were you here and didn't tell me? So what she did was she emailed the woman the night before.
Yep.
And hey, I'm going to be in town tomorrow. I'm free between 2 and 2:30 if you want to get together for a quick cup of coffee. And she said, I started using this technique, and oftentimes people don't even get it until like the next day. Oh, I'm so sorry I missed you. And if they do get it, then there are parameters. We'll meet between this time and this time. And it's homeopathic doses.
Homeopathic doses, I love it. So, final thoughts. So what are your final thoughts to the audience about this kind of, it's more than a concept. It's it's a way of thinking about people in your life. So I loved it. What are your final thoughts?
So one of the last chapters was about balance. And I think your audience might like a quick lesson on balance. So you know the answer already because you've read the book, but if you're watching this, listening to this, I want you to think about, I'm going to give you the secret to balance. Okay? Here is the secret to balance. Forget about balance, you'll never have it.
Exactly.
It's just not possible. And we look at
Absolutely.
balance like scales, and my personal life has to be in balance with my professional life, which has to be in balance with my spiritual life, which has to be in balance with my health. Life is much more a juggling act than a balancing act. And so
Absolutely.
I think we have to release that, and instead we look at life as a life of harmony rather than balance. And this is more than semantics. Even the graphic for harmony, the yin and the yang, even
Yeah.
the graphic are out of balance if you separate them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, in the last section of the book, we talk about how do you create harmony versus balance. I'll give you 2 techniques out of the number that we did in there. One is, sounds simple, not easy. Be here now. Wherever you are, be there. Be present. Don't be at home thinking about the work project you have. Don't be at work thinking about the fact that you didn't spend time with the family last night.
Exactly.
Be fully present. I'll give you one more. You must create margins in your life, like the margins on a paper, on a page. You've got to create margins. You have to have time for yourself to do the things that you want to do that are important to you, even if they're small margins. You've got to have margins. And if you don't have margins, then you're going to live a life that's not only out of balance, but out of harmony. I have had a very imbalanced life. Imbalanced.
Yeah.
But I've had a life of harmony.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I recommend is create a life of harmony. Curate your room. It is your life. It is your room. You have the power to make it what you want. And maybe you didn't start. It's like the old Chinese proverb, when's the best time to plant an oak tree? Mm-hmm. The answer is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, when's the second best time? Today. So take these ideas and start to implement them today and create the life that you deserve.
Fantastic. And there's no better way to end this amazing episode of our series, and to thank you, Dr. Misner, for coming on. Really, really thank you, Ivan. It's every time I meet you, every time I engage with you and with your team, who are amazing as well. It's a great experience. So thank you very much indeed. How can people find out? Where can they buy the book?
The book is available in bookstores and on Amazon, of course. It's available worldwide on Amazon. And if anyone's interested in my blog, I got a lot of free content up there, ivanmisner.com. And of course, BNI is bni.com.
Fantastic. Ivan, thank you. It's been an amazing pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.